started a live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Source Material. We are slowly encroaching on 140 episodes. Won't be too long, and we will be fastly approaching it and bypassing it, because here lately we've been kind of taking it easy, giving you a week break in between episodes. But tonight we are discussing and synergizing with one of the more recent Marvel Cinematic Universe releases, and that is Thor Ragnarok. So our discussion tonight is actually going to be about Ragnarok that has occurred in the Marvel Comics. Now, here's the thing. This has happened, Ragnarok has happened in the pages of Thor twice that I know of. And this is according to what I don't know for sure, but I know that this is the second iteration of Ragnarok in the pages of Thor. This story occurred in late 2004, went into 2005, and what was going to be the final issues of the Thor magazine. If you go into your archives to check it out, you'll actually see that it took place in between. It's Thor issues 80 through 85. But if you're a legacy numberer, that's right. That's actually a relative term now. If you're a legacy numberer, that actually happened between 582 and 587. And you'll see on the covers, you'll see on the covers there that it actually has both those numbers, at least on the actual comics. It has 80, and then right beside it would have like 582. So legacy numbering was already happening back then, if you can picture that into your head. So anyway, joining me tonight, we are short one man, Ronnie Adams, who is hanging out with his, he's dog sitting tonight, his own dog, who's unfortunately under the weather, and that's okay. We gave him the night off. But Mark Radulich, the patriarch of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, has shown up, and we are going to discuss this. Mark Radulich, how you doing this evening, man?
I'm good. Hey, Jesse, what did you think of that list I sent you?
The schedule?
The schedule. The 2018 Source Material / Damn You Hollywood schedule.
Yeah, dude, you said that equals out, at least what you sent to me was about a movie, I guess, and a book a month, right?
Roughly, yeah. It amounted to about a book a month. There were like one or two where there was more than one, but for the most part, just based on the movies that we're reviewing and some of the stuff I just wanted to cover just to cover it, like 300. Yeah, we've got roughly one book associated to a movie or television show per month, and there's going to be more. This was what I could do now. Okay, this is just what I know of. But now, next year there's a Cloak and Dagger series that's coming to Freeform. There's something else besides Cloak and Dagger. There's another television show. That's another Marvel one that I believe is also coming to Freeform. I know that there's some more DC stuff that's coming to television, and it's just I don't have those dates yet. Plus, there's Daredevil season 3, Jessica Jones season 2. I don't know how many Marvel Netflix shows are going to debut in 2018. I know they're shooting. I feel like they wrapped on Daredevil already, or they're in the middle of shooting it. I know Jessica Jones just started shooting. I've seen some pictures of Luke Cage, so that might have been shooting as well. So who knows? We weren't even supposed to get a Punisher this year, but they fast-tracked that one.
Yeah, man. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking over the schedule, and the one that intimidates me the most, we've already discussed about, we kind of discussed this a little bit, is the Trial of Galactus. Now, is that the 20-issue epic?
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Those 20 issues incorporate the story of which is actually the trial of Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing doesn't necessarily deal with that. It's like a couple issues here, a couple of the issues there, but it's encompassed in these 20 issues.
Yeah, this is John Byrne. I remember hearing smatterings of this. I think I might know some of the story, but I never really sat down and read it. And I know John Byrne can write. I don't know. Do you recognize that name at all?
Yes. And I will tell you that you might remember some of this from what I pitched when I pitched my own Fantastic Four movie. I pitched it as a trilogy. And the bones of my trilogy was from the Trial of Galactus. Was basically I wanted to do the actual story where Galactus comes to Earth and the Fantastic Four end up nearly killing Galactus until Reed figures out that Galactus serves a celestial purpose. So he allows him to live, and Galactus leaves. Now, in the Trial of Galactus, he destroys the Skrull homeworld. Again, my pitch was that he destroys whatever world Annihilus came from, as well as some other ones.
Yeah.
They do the trial. He wins, basically. Reed wins, goes back to Earth, and that sets off the Annihilus wave.
That is, yeah, I remember that pitch, man. I look forward to getting into that. I know John Byrne can write. I mean, he's a fabled writer of Marvel lore. So I look forward to that.
Now, to be clear, that was my pitch. That's not what happens in the Trial of Galactus.
No, I got you. Yeah. Okay. So this is June that they were looking at. I do know. One of the things I mentioned to you was getting some guests on for some of these. As a matter of fact, I'm looking through it right now. I'm pretty sure I know we can get our good buddy Jordan Lowe from. Sorry, I'm sitting here reading. Jordan Lowe from Kapow. He is a huge Green Arrow. At least as far as I know, he enjoyed the early run of Green Arrow and some of the stories. So Longbow Hunters might be something he would probably like to take part in. He's been a guest on here before. Predator story, I know one person I can go to for that. The Demon Bear saga, for the New Mutants, that is something I've never read. But again, that's something that's pretty popular. A lot of people say that's what the movie is going to be based off of. You said, right?
Yes. From what I've been able to glean from articles and Wikipedia entries, I believe they are loosely basing the New Mutants horror movie on the Demon Bear saga.
Okay. All right. Well, man, I can't wait. It's going to be an exciting 2018. We've got the rough bones of a decent little schedule there, and I know we're going to be filling it full of more stuff. So everybody out there, keep an eye out. We're probably going to share this here at some point pretty soon.
And don't forget.
What's that?
Don't forget, at some point, the Snagglepuss trade paperback will be out.
Jocks Calandras won't let me forget. And Ronnie Adams, oh my goodness. Ronnie Adams continually. All I hear is when's that trade hitting? When's that trade hitting? I'm like, man,
exactly.
Why you bugging me about it?
Snagglepuss trade paperback. Gay playwright in the 1960s. I can't wait.
Oh man. Well, this evening we are discussing Thor Ragnarok. We do have one viewer, by the way, Mark Radish. One viewer, our good buddy Remington. I know Remington's out there. He always catches our podcast live on YouTube. So we appreciate you, Remy. Thanks for listening, man. So me and you, yeah, we got an audience, Mark. Yeah, buddy. So we're going to be talking Thor Ragnarok. Now, you chose this story, I think. I know we had a choice, and we discussed it a little bit, but because I was kind of intimidated by the original one, which, do you remember, was that written by Walt Simonson? Was that who we were looking at with the original Ragnarok?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know the answer. We're going to say that's a yes. Okay. And I knew that Walt Simonson was a wordy author. So we kind of went to the next option that we had, which was this 2004 story arc that occurred in the last issues of the Thor series from 1998 after it had gotten rebooted. I don't know. Do you remember Heroes Reborn at all, Mark?
No.
Okay. Heroes Reborn happened after Onslaught hit. Onslaught destroyed most of the Marvel Universe, which was a combination of Charles Xavier and Magneto's psyche. Okay. Well, actually, it became this huge hulking version. Well, let's just put it this way. When you first found out about Onslaught, he decked Juggernaut so hard that he flew across the state and landed, I think, in New Jersey and was knocked out. That's how powerful this guy was. So the whole Marvel universe banded together and were able to somewhat wipe out or destroy Onslaught. However, there were some casualties, and it ended up being I think the Fantastic Four, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and some other ones ended up. Hulk was one also. Ended up getting sucked into this universe, and long story short, Thor made his way back, and they rebooted the title. That's why we're looking at Thor issue 80 here. Okay, and here we are coming towards the end of this, and Ragnarok. Now, let me go ahead and give a definition of what Ragnarok is, so you guys have an idea, because this does actually have some connections to what is this, Viking lore or whatever, however you say.
Norse mythology.
There you go. Thank you, sir. The Legend of Ragnarok, straight from the wiki. It's a series of future events, including a great battle, foretold to ultimately result in the death of a number of major figures, including the gods Odin, Thor, Tyr, Freyr, Heimdall, I guess that's Heimdall, and Loki. Okay? That is straight from the wiki. Now, pinning this tale, telling us this story, there's a couple writers that are attributed to this. There's a guy by the name of Michael Van Oming, who, according to Wikipedia, he's done some comics. One of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that he was part of Stormbreaker, the saga of Beta Ray Bill. But most of what he has written usually involves Norse mythology. Thor Blood Oath, Ares, Hammer of the Gods. Okay, so that's what he's written. He's also teamed up with a guy by the name, I think is Daniel Berman. Daniel didn't have much of a writing career according to Marvel Wiki here, or Marvel.com, other than Stormbreaker, the saga of Beta Ray Bill. So as you can tell, those two have had, and I don't know if Stormbreaker happened afterwards or before. I'm not looking at the copyright dates here, but there again, we see these two guys coming together. Not only that, but the artist, a person by the name of Andrea Davido. He's an Italian artist. He also, believe it or not, had his hands in Stormbreaker, the saga of Beta Ray Bill. He's also done art for some Black Panther, a lot of Marvel stuff, Young Avengers, Thing, Civil War, House of M. Oh, he did Civil War, House of M 1 through 5, which is what been on the network here. So there you go. There's our creative team. Now let's get into the plot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to read my synopsis here of Thor Ragnarok. Again, takes place between issues 80 through 85. And then me and Mark are just going to talk about it. Mark, before I get started, any questions, any comments?
I just wanted to give some context to what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
And that is this. This is part of the Avengers Disassembled storyline. The actual trade paperback that this is from, and I guess this wasn't necessarily called Thor Ragnarok. This was called Thor Disassembled. And I don't know if we've ever talked about Avengers Disassembled on here before, but a very, very brief, what are you doing here? A very brief cameo. The Avengers Disassembled is basically the Scarlet, in a very, very brief nutshell, the Scarlet Witch causes havoc, and all of the Avengers show up, but they don't realize it's the Scarlet Witch. They think it's the Skrulls, and they think it's something else, and it's just these giant attacks keep happening at the mansion. A couple of the Avengers end up dying, and it turns out, like I said, it's the Scarlet Witch who is finally stopped from what she's doing, and Magneto, I think, takes her to Genosha, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've read the story, but apart from the main Avengers Disassembled series, There were also like Captain America disassembled, Iron Man disassembled, and this Ragnarok story is the Thor disassembled. So I just thought it was important to know that apparently with this Avengers disassembled storyline, the Marvel editors went out of their way to wreck everything just to rebuild it again.
Well, I'm actually on the wiki right now, and I remember this storyline going through, and I may have a few issues, but I don't remember anything out of it. Brian Michael Bendis, which is a very popular name in comics right now. This is the beginning of his Avengers run, was Avengers Disassembled. And I'm trying to find out if this happened before or after House of M. Hold on a second here. I'm taking a look because I need to know this. Because House of M was a great series where, again, Scarlet Witch took the center stage and she said, no more humans.
No more mutants.
Was it no more mutants?
Yes. It's because of her that, like, mutants were depowered.
Okay, I thought House of M, the way House of M worked was everybody was a mutant. And, you know, well, I should say, because there were a few that were and a few that weren't.
Nope.
And then
I just looked it up.
Okay.
It's no more mutants.
No more mutants. All right. Well, I was looking to see where this, it says the event is now considered by editors as the first part of a long series of events, which includes House of M. So this must be right when Scarlet Witch starts breaking down and starts going insane in the Avengers Disassembled. Now, Thor, he's off in his own, he's up in Asgard, and he's trying to make sense of what's going on there. So let me get into my notes here. We'll talk about the story. And here we go. All right. Now, much of this story, I'm not going to go into every detail here, but I'm going to kind of give you a great overview as to what occurs. Much of this story deals with Thor's personal struggle of dealing with the end times, which is Ragnarok, and watching his friends and fellow warriors and even his brother Balder perish at the scheming hands of Loki and his army. Loki has found the heart of the star that Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer, was forged in. And Loki's now in allegiance with the great fire demon Surtur, forging these mock weaponry out of this star, which is the same material that Mjolnir is made out of, just a little less powered. But I mean, a multitude of weapons to amass this army and give them weapons to lay waste to the lands and cities of Asgard. Now, Thor, gathering his remaining forces to participate in the climactic battle of Ragnarok, he begins to regret having to play part in this fate. He is then visited by the spirit of the Odin Force, who leads him on a journey of self-discovery and understanding. But most importantly, Thor realizes that Ragnarok is merely a recurring cycle set in motion by a group called Those Who Sit Above in Shadow. This cadre of gods feed off of the chaos and death that befall those in Asgard during Ragnarok. Now, with this new insight, Thor has a new goal: end the cycle of Ragnarok. In the final 2 issues of the series, we watch as Thor lays open a path for Surtur to openly attack his friends, setting in motion the events of Ragnarok. But it isn't until he visits the 3 Fates, who reside near the Tree of Life, and they watch over the tapestry of time, Thor's plan to end Ragnarok is put into motion. This is now I want you guys to picture the tapestry of time. It's an actual like rug or a tapestry that is being drawn, and it's being written as events unfold, telling the story of Asgard. But it is Thor who recognizes that the origin of the thread to form this tapestry is being drawn from the very beginning of time. So I want to try my best to describe this. You see a tapestry being created. The events of time are being inscribed on this tapestry, but there's this thread that has to begin the tapestry. And it turns out it's coming all the way from the beginning at the very top. So it's a circle. Okay, so it creates this very cycle that the gods are in. Now, with the power of Mjolnir, Thor then finds the thread and cuts it. The tree of life then collapses into itself as Thor watches everything in Asgard end. He thinks of the purpose that Odin had for him all along, and this is a very important part of this tale. Odin sent Thor to reside on Earth and live among humanity so that this boundless cycle could be broken. Thor had learned of the human drive to never give up and continue to fight. Also, his time with humanity gained him the knowledge to not live like every other god of Asgard, going blindly into Ragnarok, but to open his eyes and seek a way to end it. So as Asgard, at the end of the issue, the final issue, Asgard fades into nothingness. Thor's essence lives on and looks forward to a nice long rest. So folks, let me tell you, when I talk about a summary, that's a summary, because there are some events that happened in these 6 issues that I really didn't take time to get into, but we're going to talk about a few of the things that at least me and Mark thought were important in here. So Mark, I mean, my summary, do you feel that there's something that you need to add? You want to talk about? What do you think?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, Loki shows up with a hammer that was made from the old oh gosh, what was the
oh, they had a word for it. Hold on, I can find it.
Yeah.
I just kept calling it the heart of the star, but it was
mold. He came from the old mold.
Yeah.
And he shows up with sort of the legion of Asgardian villains.
Yeah.
And just starts killing everybody. And it's like it's one sneak attack, then another sneak attack, and then it's just every time things start to get a handle on things, there's another attack to where Thor's like, okay, this isn't working, and he has to go, as he says in the movie, he has to go on a journey of discovery, find with some sense of inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he realizes that this is a cycle, and this cycle serves a greater purpose, and that it's time to put the cycle to rest, much to the chagrin of those who sit in shadows. Considering, I think to some Thor is considered somewhat of a brute, and he's just one of the overpowered strong men who swings a hammer.
Yeah, he's a big jock.
Yeah, I thought that this was decidedly a thinker's Thor.
Yeah,
somebody who attempts to solve a problem with his fists and realizes that there has to be another solution. He again, this is a Thor that sacrifices not one but 2 eyes, and comes to realize that he has to create a humongous sacrifice in order to end things. And my favorite part of this whole story was Loki's reaction to it. Like, hey, wait a minute, this is my racket.
Yeah, wait a second, what the hell are you doing?
I'm the bad guy.
Man, there were so many twists and turns in this story. Right at the beginning, I knew stuff was getting heavy. Like, I think in the first issue, when the attack happens, while they're mourning some troll or something, and the sneak attack happens, and Enchantress is dead. And I was like, whoa, that's a pretty big character to be dying right off the bat. Now, I don't know what the buildup was prior to these issues, but I mean, that really took me by surprise. I was like, I don't know if you felt the same way when you started seeing people fall left and right. You knew something bad was happening. Something was definitely going down. Are you into Norse mythology at all? Is that ever anything that you ever got into?
I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I mean, as a layman, I know something about it.
Okay. When you saw Thor Ragnarok, did you know that, shit was going to be hitting the fan in some way, shape, or form?
Let me tell you how I knew somewhat about this story. Not a lot, but I knew something had happened to Asgard because I, on a lark, picked up Thor Volume 3, the first, I think, like 5 issues, the trade paperback, and I open it up and it's like Thor has to restore Asgard, and he does it in Broxton, Oklahoma.
Wait a second.
and it kept referring to, events from Avengers Disassembled. That's how I found out about it, actually, because I hadn't read comics for a really long time. And we walked into a comic book store. I took my kids in there. This was a couple of years ago. And I was like, hey, I'll check this out. This looks pretty cool.
Surprise.
So I grabbed this. I grabbed this Thor trade paperback, and like I said, the first thing it says is, all of the gods are living as humans in hiding, and they don't even know they're gods. Their memory has been like wiped out. This is after, I believe, Civil War. So I had read Civil War separately, but I had no idea what this Avengers Disassembled thing was. But it kept referring back to it. And yeah, in the whole first part of the trade paperback is Thor, on the hunt to find these various gods that are living as humans and restoring Asgard in Oklahoma, which is it's just floating above the ground, which was pretty funny. Yeah. That's why I became really interested in reading this. It was I wanted to know what happened that that they decided to, reboot things the way that they did. And of course, none of this is relevant anymore. Thor's a girl.
Yeah. Things have changed.
Thor is now referring to himself as, I think, Odin Force or some shit like that.
Oh man, something like that. When I was Odin, is it Odin's son? No, he's Odin's son initially. See, I have no idea.
It's Odin's son. Yeah,
is it Odin's son? Okay, yeah. All right. And it was interesting to see. I've got the cover up here for the second part. He got to kind of say his goodbyes to some of the, his two good friends on the Avengers, which is Iron Man and Captain America. When he brings them there, and he turns around and he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to send your ass back because things are definitely. I think it's at that point when he realizes that Asgard's going to end and Ragnarok is upon them. He needs to, it's a battle that he needs to fight. And that's why when we look at it, the second part here, when Iron Man and Captain America are on the front, at the end of that part of the story, he sends them home. So not only this is a god who his fate seems to always be ordained. Like you are always going to be in this fight, no matter what. It's always going to end in this horrific battle. And that was probably my favorite part of the story, was the fact that he realizes that he is this cog in this massive machine, and it will continue to turn over and over and over. And he has to come with the grips of, okay, I know what my part is. Now I've got to figure out a way to really end it. And his way of, he says goodbye to, his Avengers buddies. He also says goodbye to Beta Ray Bill, who he brought there and ends up sending back out right before the big final battle. And he knows that somehow he has got to get this cycle of Ragnarok to stop. So what'd you think of, did you think it was executed well? Just like you said, it was a thinker's Thor. Did you like that?
Yeah. I've talked about this with reference to the Hulk. Watching the Hulk destroy city after city gets a little boring after a while. So they have to come up with new ways for the Hulk to do things and be entertaining. And one of those ways is to make the Hulk a thinker and to give him some different responsibilities and people to interact with. And that's kind of where I got to with this Thor story, which was, okay, we get it. Thor kicks all kinds of ass. What else can he do? What can we do that's going to make him interesting and not just a hammer wielding, as you put it, a hammer wielding jock.
Yeah. That's the way I've always viewed him almost. And that was one of the nice things of this story, is giving him his place. He always came, and I think that was what Loki was the smart one, the trickster. And it seemed like, even though Thor always had his number, I always viewed Loki as the smarter one of the two, just in the stories that I read.
Well, the other side of it was Thor's journey was that he was arrogant, and because he could solve his problems with his fists. That's all he. That's kind of all he was for a period of time, and he was sent to Earth to learn humility. And eventually he goes back to Asgard, and he's he's not doing the Donald Blake character anymore. So it was good to see them make use of, it felt like this character had grown. And while the instincts are always going to be there to want to solve problems with your hammer, it was good to see a situation where, two things. One, where he did learn from his history of being Donald Blake and being on Earth, that not every problem needs to be solved with violence. Sometimes you need to come up with another way. And showing that bit of wisdom that he did learn. So, I really liked that. I mean, I really liked this story. It was a little weird at times, a little esoteric, but for the most part, I dug it.
Thor is a book that sometimes I can read. Well, let's just say I'm always worried about the effort that I'm going to have to put into reading a Thor title. One of the stories that me and you have talked about plenty of times, I know I've mentioned it on this podcast a lot of times, is the God Bomb saga, written by
the God Butcher.
Yeah, written by Jason Aaron. And I'll tell you right now, that is one of the best Thor stories that I've ever read. And I haven't read a whole lot. That's the problem, because I'm scared of, not only do we have to worry about Marvel continuity, but we also have to worry about sometimes the continuity that this is all based on, which is Norse mythology. And I worry that I'm going to miss something. When we were at, of course, it was really easy to follow, like the first 4 issues, maybe 20 panels of talking, and then we had battles. When we had Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America going up against Loki. I mean, there was like 2 or 3 solid pages, nothing but rock'em sock'em, no words. And then when it gets into the written part and the thinking part, that's where I thought, oh man, it's going to lose me. And it almost did a couple times. You talk about esoteric, that kind of almost took me out. But then I started to realize what was going on. And I think what kept me hooked was, how is he going to end this cycle? How is he going to stop this? What'd you think of the swerve? Like, and you don't have to go too in depth on this if you don't want to, but when Thor finally opens his eyes and he's got those blue, searing eyes now in place of the gaping holes after he took his own eyes and threw them down the well. But when he showed up at Surtur's realm and was like, hey, you know what? All I want you to do is just forge my hammer, and then I'll blaze a path, and you can go right ahead. You can go right ahead and just let Ragnarok begin. Did that take you by surprise?
No, I knew where they were going with the story. What I really liked was again Loki's reaction.
I'll tell you right now, the look on his face when Thor removes his head from his body, that was fun to watch as that unfolded.
Yeah.
Those couple panels.
That was the thing. It was like, I enjoyed Loki really as the whole part of the story, because it's like he seemingly gets the upper hand, and it's like Loki's just on a tear. And then when Thor figures out that he's got to let Ragnarok happen, in order for the cycle to break. Loki doesn't see the wisdom of what he's doing. He just, it looks like Thor's just gone crazy. And again, it's just like, hey, that's my racket. Like he's deathly afraid. Like he's more afraid of Thor than any other time I've seen him in any other book, because he thinks that like Thor has just lost his fucking mind.
Well, and in literal terms, Thor's going off script. I mean, he has gone off script, and he's like, yeah, this is the part I'm supposed to play, but I'm not playing it anymore, and I'm going to figure out a way to get it ended. And let's just kind of hurry things up a little bit so I can do that. I remember when this story dropped, and this was a year before my daughter was born, and I don't know if I caught it in a Wizard where they were talking about the series coming to an end, but I can remember I was working in the mall at an arcade, and I remember sneaking away and heading down to Walden Books or something and grabbing that last issue of Thor and skimming through it and getting to those last few pages. So the very
Walden
end.
Walden Books, boy, does that bring back memories.
I don't know if we still have any down here or not. I think they went out of business a while back.
They went out of business. The only thing, the book, what do you call it?
Borders.
Okay, what was it? Borders is gone. Walden Books is gone. There's no such thing as, like, unless there's a Books A Million, there is no such thing as a mall bookstore anymore.
That's true. That's true. So I sneak down there and I'm thumbing through and I get to the end. Were you able to follow the ending where the whole tapestry thing? Was that something that you were able to kind of grasp onto? Because you talk about, mythological and esoteric. That right there seemed to me. How about you?
Look, we have read some wacky stuff this year where I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I'm looking in your direction, Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Nosebleed.
Yeah. So, I mean, did it give me a nosebleed? No.
Okay.
I was able to follow enough of what was happening to kind of keep up with the story. I mean, was it like perfect? Not necessarily, but I could get enough. I got enough of a gist of what was happening that I was like, okay, all right, I get this now. I don't have to belabor the point.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that we'll see any of this in Thor Ragnarok?
Well,
the movie.
No, that seems to be a more straightforward story of, Hela has come to claim Asgard for herself and kills a bunch of Asgardians in the process, and they are there to depose a despot. I think it's going to be a much more simpler story.
We see Hela for like what, one page when Thor goes down to hell.
Yes, and this is the version of Hela where her tits are hanging out of her costume.
Yeah, so we see her for like one page, and then I think the spirit of Odin brings Thor. Yeah, Thor dies in this, and then he comes back to life. I mean, he's all over the place, but all in all, I think this was a fun story to read. 6 issues took me probably about, I don't know, an hour and a half. So, my final thoughts on it, to be honest, I would recommend this. I got a couple people that I know are Thor fans. The street level guys might want to stay away from this because it's just some of us way out there. We got magic. We've got, we've got mythology going on here. So I'd probably not recommend it to my friends who like the Punisher, but I got a couple guys that are into the cosmic stuff. We see a couple like villains show up. I already mentioned the heroes, Beta Ray Bill, Captain America, Iron Man, but a lot of this is Asgardian, the mainstays from Asgard. Valkyrie shows up. We have Lady Sif, who loses her freaking arm. Volstagg the Thin. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in this. So it's just a fun read to watch these characters go through. I mean, it's chaos. It's the end times. It's the end of their world. And to watch how Thor deals with it. Go ahead.
Can you talk really quickly about what possessed them to do this in the first place?
Possessed them to do.
Why did the editors at Marvel decide to do away with Thor just to bring him back again?
Now, you're asking me to comment on something I have no idea about. I mean, I can give you a theory,
Okay,
but as to why for sure, I don't know. I mean, my guess is that you can only write so many tales, and I don't know if Thor was suffering when it comes sales wise, or if they were just like, hey, we need to take this guy out of the picture for a while till we have a better handling of what stories can be written that are good stories.
Well, how can I miss you if you won't go away?
Yeah, you know, that's normally what you see happen when they take a character off the table. They're wanting to write a good story about him some way else, some other way, or figure out a good way of bringing him back to make it seem more epic. Now, it's funny that you mentioned in Volume 3. I mean, was Volume 3 when he was returning, or I mean, did he just return after Ragnarok, or did the first 2 volumes talk about that?
Well, I'm looking at what I bought here, and it came out in 2007.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know why I'm looking on the wiki right now from Avengers Disassembled. I'll go ahead and read what it says in the aftermath after Disassembled here. Here we go. We have, in the wake of Avengers Disassembled, 2 new Avengers series were created. The new Avengers title replaced the Avengers title, which ended with issue 503. Avengers Finale, November 2004. This new title continued with the creative team, Brian Michael Bendis and artist David Finch. The other title, premiering February 2005, was The Young Avengers, which you know much about them. Like Hulkling, I think, was part of them, and there are a couple other Young Avengers based off of the Avengers. Featured teenage heroes, each of whom, except Hawkeye, related in some way to the legacy of the Avengers. Trying to see if there's anything in here about Thor. I see nothing.
I know Thor was not around for Civil War, and I know he was not around for World War Hulk.
Wasn't in there for House of M. Yeah, I don't see anything in here. I'm looking just to see. Nothing on the wiki as far as I could tell. I'd love to know though. I'd love to know what went into the production reason as to why they took them off the table. Well, what's your final thoughts on the book? I know you kind of already said them, but I mean, go ahead and put a period on the end of this sentence and let us know what you think.
Well, I was a longtime Thor reader, and I always thought Thor, a lot of the fun Thor stuff was when he got away from Earth. I mean, when he was on Earth and he was sort of fighting the 3 guys that had the special power tools.
The Wrecking Crew?
The Wrecking Crew. You know, and he's fighting the Wrecking Crew. You know, there's just so many Earthbound heroes that do that sort of thing. You know, I much preferred Thor's more cosmic adventures, his adventures on Asgard. And this is, you know, the one last romp through that sort of, through that sort of setting. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a weird book. It's not the worst thing we've read this year. No one turned into a building.
That's the truth. That is the truth. Of all the crazy crap that happened during Ragnarok, no one turned into a building. All right. Well, that was a fun discussion. I said it was going to be quick, ladies and gentlemen. We got through it pretty quickly. I guess, man, go ahead and get into plugs. I really don't have much else to talk about here. What
I got your plugs. I got your plugs for you.
All right.
Okay, in January, we're going to do 300. February, Black Panther, Who is the Black Panther? March, Tomb Raider, Volume 1, Season of the Witch. New Mutants, the Demon Bear Saga in April. May brings you 3 source materials. Infinity, Green Arrow, The Longbow Hunters, and Star Wars, Han Solo from 2017. June brings you Cable and Deadpool, Volume 1, If Looks Could Kill, and Fantastic Four, The Trial of Galactus. July brings you Ant-Man, Volume 1, Second Chance Man. August brings you some sort of Predator book. I haven't decided which one yet. October brings you Venom, Volume 1, Homecoming. November brings you X-Men, The Dark Phoenix Saga. December, Christmas Eve, will be Aquaman, the New 52, Volume 2, which features Black Manta. And finally, your New Year's Eve delight, Transformers, Bumblebee. That's all the that's all the ones I'm making Jesse do in 2018 so far.
Well, okay, let me hop over to the Google machine and let's take a look and see what we got upcoming for source material itself. I'll just throw this in here real quick and then I'll turn you back loose with the rest of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network plugs.
That was source material. That was all source material.
What do we got coming up next week, though?
Oh, God. I'm talking about 2018.
You're talking 2018.
You want to drag me back to 2017. Okay. This show will actually be posted to the Radulich and Broadcasting Network on November 6th.
Oh.
And then we're going to skip a week. And what will be debuting on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network will be November 20th will be Justice League Darkseid War Volumes 1 and 2. After that is the Runaways series with oh gosh, who were their names? Brian K. Vaughan, Adrian Alfano, and Takeshi Miyazawa. So we're gonna do all 18. We're gonna do all 18 issues of that. We're gonna on December 4th. We're gonna be doing Punisher. Welcome Home, Frankie. And then for Star Wars week, December 18th, we're gonna do Star Wars Princess Leia, the trade paperback.
All right, tremendous. Well, you've done pretty much all the plugs for me. I know that at some point, well, we'll just do it this way. Standard stuff. Make sure to go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. You can follow me at Stiznarky on Twitter if you do so wish. Keep an eye out for a recent, sometime soon, release of our commentary with me, Mark Radulich, the MVP of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, Pat Mullen, and the returning podcast superstar, Ronnie Adams on Screaming Boy. We did a commentary for Monster Squad. That's right. It's a cult hit. I've learned a lot on that podcast commentary. So keep an eye out for that. Also, I believe pretty soon, if not within the next couple days, I'd like to get it out for tomorrow on Halloween. You may hear another commentary, but this is going to be a condensed commentary. I'm looking to try and keep it at a half an hour. I'm doing some crazy editing, just crazy editing for Friday the 13th, part 1. That's right. You get to hear me and Justin Thomas cut up and just talk about all sorts of goofy crap. I'm not making any promises, ladies and gentlemen. You may get through the first 5 minutes and turn it off, and that's perfectly fine with me. Counts as a listen anyway, I think. So, hey, but check it out. Me and Justin Thomas talking Friday the 13th, part 1. A lot of fun. But other than that, I turn it over to you. What else we got coming up on this week? So this is airing the week of the 6th. You do your plugs however you want to do them there, Mark.
All right. Well, if you're listening live, hi, Remington. If you're listening live on YouTube right now, tomorrow night is All Hallows Eve. And what better way to celebrate All Hallows Eve by doing a review of the new torture porn movie, Jigsaw. On the Metal Hammer of Doom this week is our Halloween special, Motorhead Undercover. And then that's it for the week. Next week is all Thor all the time. Source material, Thor Ragnarok, which we just finished discussing. Damn You Hollywood, Thor Ragnarok. We're going to go back into the Wayback Machine and check out on the Metal Hammer of Doom a little band called Wizard and their album Thor, aptly titled. Because it's all Thor all the time, you see.
That's right.
And then finish up the week in theory with an on-trial of Thor the Dark World.
If your ass ain't Thor after we're done with you. Oh, goodness.
We sold our souls to the devil. No, wait.
Oh, it's great.
We sold our souls to Satan.
Is that it?
For now, yes.
All right. Mark Radulich, thank you very much for coming on here and hanging out with me, talking Thor Ragnarok. We got it done. We got it done less than an hour. I think we zoomed right through it, man.
Yeah, I didn't have Ronnie Adams here to torture tonight.
Oh man, dang it! I'm gonna put in another 15 minutes of Ronnie sighing. I can do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Mark Radulich. My name is Jesse Starcher. Thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be talking to you soon. Have a Thor one.